wanted to come to you all really quick. I can't say really quick because I don't know how long this is going to be. But I wanted to come to you all and share a story. And I don't know why I'm sharing this story. I just feel the need to share this story, which I guess is why I'm sharing this story. I was talking to a friend of mine, a really good friend of mine, Diana. I was talking to her, and Diana and I talk about a lot of things. A lot of really personal shit. And you know, it comes easy for me to talk to Diana and my other friends who I hold in very high regard, such as Diana. But a lot of people don't know what I'm about to tell you. A lot of my really close friends who probably don't watch this channel anyway, because there are only, last time I checked, maybe about 20 people watching, but whatever. This will live on in infamy when I am long gone, dead and deceased, because I don't really like to take videos down. This is a story about that one time I thought I got molested. So Diana and I, again, were in conversation. I don't know how the conversation took the turn that it did, but we started talking about my sexual experiences, or my experiences with sexual abuse. And I told her this story. The story goes like this. I, a young Jeremy, was in, 6th grade, somewhere around 96, 97. And I would often, on weekends, be shuttled to my godmother's house. And my mother and my godmother, they had been friends, since high school. They both went to high school in Japan. And, you know, as my mother started having children, the two that she had, my sister and I, and my godmother started having children, her two oldest to date, the two kind of got together and decided, oh, well, okay, you're going to be the godmother of my children, and, you know, X and Y and Z. So she, my godmother, held me and my sister in her custody of sorts, and my mother held her two oldest children in custody of sorts, you know, the godparent thing. And so I would go over there at one point in life, at this particular point in my life, I was going over there pretty frequently. I'm not sure if it was because my mom's schedule changed, or my dad was locked up, or my dad was locked up and my mom's schedule changed. At either rate, I was shuttled over there, over to my godmother's house. I think my father actually may have been out, so I think that's at the point he had started working. I can't recall. But I would go over there and, you know, I'd hang out with my godbrother and my godsister and their siblings, who are not my godbrothers and godsisters, respectively. And there was at one point, my godbrother and godsister, they are, maybe about 5 to 6 years older than me. So if I was in middle school when this incident took place, they were well in high school. So I was left alone with my godbrother and sister's brother, who shall remain nameless. And oh my God, I'm trying to remember how it started. So I was left alone with my godbrother and sister's brother. And he had to be probably a freshman or sophomore in high school. And we were kids. I was a kid, at least. I think in high school you kind of know differently than you do when you're in middle school. And we were at home bored. I think my godmother and godfather were either at church or at work. They were somewhere where they were not there, which is totally fine because, you know, he was of age. He was of a child rearing or a child watching age, and hell, I was a child. And so somehow we got to playing Truth or Dare. Truth or Dare is never a good idea for adolescents. And so we're playing Truth or Dare, and the dare is first from me to him to do something silly like run outside with no shoes and or socks on, something very childish and stupid that any adult could do with no problem because it was a stupid dare. He dared me to do something equally as childish and stupid, and so we go on with this for about 5 to 10 minutes, 10 to 15 maybe. And so then as we progress, or as the game progresses, the dares start to get a little sexual. I immediately remember the discomfort because it was like, well, you know, first I was dared to touch his private parts, and, you know, then I dare him to do something silly because I really wasn't there. I'm like, okay, Truth or Dare. And, you know, even back then I'm like, you know, I ain't no punk, but the dares got really, really sexual. So the dares go from me touching his you know, his genitals to allowing him to touch mine, and then me kissing him and or allowing him to kiss me, and it just got like progressively worse. I hate the term, I sincerely hate the term, one thing led to another, but one thing led to another, and we were in his brother's room. Not too sure, me not being too sure, I'm like, okay, I'm already uncomfortable. And I'll talk about why I didn't do certain things in a minute, but you know, we're down in his brother's room, and he's like, well, let me stick my dick in you. I remember him saying, oh, well, it'll only be for a second, and I promise you it won't hurt, and it's just gonna be, you know, we're playing Truth or Dare, and I'm like totally uncomfortable at this point. But I don't have anyone to call. I don't have anywhere to go. My family and I, we lived in St. Louis. We're now in Belleville or some part of Illinois, so, you know, I can't drive home. I dared not call my mother. So, yeah. And so that happened. You know, for the longest time in the back of my head, I had convinced myself, like, after learning about what molestation was and you know, the kind of people who do it and how it happens and how it's cyclical, allegedly, I just thought that I was molested, but that's not the experience I had. What I experienced, what happened to me, that's not called molestation. That's totally rape. The one thing I remember about being pinned down was looking at the clock. So we were in his brother's room, and I was pinned down on the bed, pants down to my ankles. This adolescent guy inside of me, like, just thrusting. And I remember 6:02, 6:04, 6:07, 6:20. That's the last number I remember. And then it was done, and the game was over. Not too sure whether I won that round or he did, but the game was over. I remember going back to school the next day. I specifically remember this being on a Sunday, because my mom came to pick me up a few hours later. And I remember being in the car and being like abnormally quiet to the point where she asked me, you know, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. But I just remember that feeling. I remember that feeling guilt, feeling like really, really dirty, feeling like sexually confused. In my entire life, in all of my 33 plus years, I've never felt like a victim, except for that one night. I kept it in. I kept that secret. And then it got out. As a child, I had to watch the impact that this had on my mom's relationship with my godmother. It definitely wasn't anything that she held against her, but as a parent, how do you feel when that happens to your child? The next day in the cafeteria, which was a Monday, I was eating lunch with a group of my friends, and somebody said something and they'd used the word faggot. And I knew what the word faggot meant. I never identified with it until that moment. And the reason I identified with it then was because, of what had just happened to me. It was a long time before I was allowed to go back over there, especially unsupervised. So at that point that I did return, my god sister, my god brother were there, and he kind of, had to keep his distance. It was later discovered, very much later, discovered that the same thing that he had done to me had actually been done to him. Not only was he the perpetrator, but he was also a victim of this same thing himself. I don't understand how it happens, because even though it's happened to me, I've never really had the desire to, so I'm always pressed to find a reason, or dare I say, an excuse for anyone who's been through this to say, well, it happened to me. I haven't allowed myself to settle with that reasoning. At 12 or 13, you should be worried about passing algebra, keeping your room clean, but I was worried about keeping that secret. I was worried for myself, I was worried for him, I was worried for my mother's relationship with my godmother, I was worried about their whole dynamic and whether or not he would get in trouble, whether or not I would get in trouble. So I didn't say anything. Never really know until you go through it what that's like, what that feels like. And there's a lot of shame associated with it. The only reason I feel compelled to share this is because my channel is for the 20 of you who watch, the 10 of you who watch, the 6 of you who watch, but it's also for me and for others who are really close to me, who I do know watch this channel. But yeah, it was an experience, and I wonder how that molded me. I wonder how much of my life would be different had that not happened. I wonder who I would actually be had that not happened. I wonder, what, if anything, that triggered. I wonder so many things about that. I often wish I could go back and tell myself to be stronger and to fight more, because there definitely was a struggle, but yeah, it's 13-year-old Jeremy, 12-year-old Jeremy versus 33-year-old Jeremy, because 33-year-old Jeremy will kill you. And so here's the thing. I know that a lot of people have been through this. I know that a lot of people have been through this and don't talk about it, and I can kind of understand why. It's not something that people normally share on a public platform. It's probably not something people share with members of their family until they're much older or until they've dealt with it. And I've dealt with it. I don't harbor any ill feelings or resentment towards the individual who, I don't want to say did this to me, but I don't hold any ill feelings. It's weird, but I don't hold any ill feelings. I don't know how it impacted my life, so I can't say that it impacted my life, because when you make statements like that, you have to know beyond any shadow of any doubt that this is the way my life would have gone had this not happened, versus this is the way that my life is going because this happened. So I can't sit up here and say, I'm mad at him because he took X and Y and Z away from me. I'll never know. I'll never know. it's like, if you make that left or if you make that right, you'll never know what would have happened or what would have happened had you done the opposite, you know? So that's pretty much it. It wasn't molestation. It was totally rape. And it only took me 20 years to figure that out.